So as I quietly wrap up a lot of my current collection and silently sit still, salivating over the upcoming siege in the Transformers line, I thought I would take some time to maximize my Maximals, and we're going to do so by looking at another member of that team today. None other than this. It is the Transformers Classics Universe Deluxe Class Dinobot, with several custom paint apps, and he's going to be our focus in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all you beautiful people, thanks for coming back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers, Collectors, NL, and me everywhere. And we have the Chug Dinobot. This is not the original Beast Wars Dinobot mold that was used several times. No, this was the update that came out several years ago now. It in and of itself is getting dated. I believe it came out perhaps during the 10th anniversary of Beast Wars, maybe around 2006, 2007. Maybe somebody could correct me on that. Nevertheless, for a Chug collector like myself, it perhaps still stands as the go-to for this character. Now, yes, we do have the original mold that was about a deluxe size, and the argument could be made that this guy is too small, and certainly the North American release was very inaccurately colored, which is where the plethora of custom paint apps comes into play. Again, even this guy could be called too small, and there is a Voyager-sized KO, and of course, in more recent times, we finally got perhaps a more accurately scaled masterpiece iteration of this guy, though for both aesthetics and price point, perhaps he doesn't fit for everyone. Well, what about this guy? How does he still stand up? Well, we're about to find out when we head over to the table and take a closer look at him. And so we're going to begin with a couple of shout-outs here to Mark Cooper, Chi Sung, Thang Jerry, Ransom5, and the_last_prime. Thanks for jumping on the bandwagon, and hopefully you enjoy what comes up next, which is gonna be this guy. It is the Transformers Classics iteration of, or is it the Universe iteration? I don't know. It's Beast Wars Dinobot. And while we did, of course, get many a repaint of the original Dinobot mold, I think that this one turned out better than all of those. Of course, that's arguable, and it is only my own personal taste. Perhaps yours is different. But where we are in between kind of the collection I currently have and waiting on the latest releases from the Siege line and the Studio Series line, and because I really don't have any interest in things like the Bumblebee line for the most part, or the Cyberverse line, I thought it was a great time to kind of round out the Maximals. Now, kind of piecemeal, we have done Beast Wars here on the channel several times in the past, but I kind of want to get this part of the franchise, I don't want to say done and over with, because that's not exactly right, but like I kind of have a select Beast Wars collection, so I want to kind of get them covered, and I figured why not start with the Maximals first. Now, to be fair, we have looked at several, from that side. And for those not in the know, the Maximals in the future are the descendants of the Autobots. So they're the good guys. This guy is in a little bit of a precarious position because he starts out in the series as a Predacon. He kind of becomes a Maximal because of his belief in honor, but always sort of says that, his root, his spark, his core is still Predacon. And one of the absolute best characters in all of the franchise, across any iteration, one of the most complex characters, and one of the most perhaps beloved, and really the source of the story Code of Honor, which is widely regarded by many as the absolute best storytelling in the whole franchise. This is the North American release, and it is not nearly as accurate as, at least the animation, as the Japanese release was. Why they made the choices they made for the North American release is beyond me. I don't know. So I did a lot of custom paint work on this guy to make him look more animation accurate, especially in robot mode. On the aftermarket, he fetches a pretty penny, but the Japanese one goes for a crazy amount. There's also a larger KO, or it's regarded as a KO, though I do think it's its own thing. It's alright, it's still not quite animation accurate. It's noted as having certain, I guess concerns about the cheapness of the plastic. I don't know how it will hold up over time. It is larger, probably more Voyager size, certainly a viable option. And of course we have MP Dinobot that a lot of people love, but that thing goes for an arm and a leg. For a chug collector, this is probably your best bet, even over the original Beast Wars toys. But like I said, that's just me, and we're about to kind of look at this guy a little more in depth, and you can kind of make your own choices for yourself. Here he is in his Raptor mode, and we'll just take him around here. I like the look of this. Is it accurate? No, not exactly, because really what we should have is this brown color should be on most of his body, and where we have these lighter orangey lines, like they shouldn't be there. Kind of down on his chest and tummy, sort of on the outer edges of his legs, we should have more of a very, very light beige, almost eggshell type of white lines done. I did try to touch a couple up here on the head. Didn't quite work out the way I wanted, so I did not continue it on the rest of the body. And I tried to match the brown to paint over these lines. That didn't work out, so I ended up just leaving it. This is not as accurate as I would like for the dinosaur mode, no doubt about it, but it's alright. It's an okay Raptor, I guess. And yes, I said Raptor. I don't know why I over-enunciated it. It's a Raptor. The articulation in this mode, not too bad, actually, all things considered. What we do have is soft rubbery arms that can go up and down. Well, actually, they can go all the way around. Because they're soft rubbery, I guess you can kind of move them a little bit. I wouldn't move them too much because you don't want to break them. The hips here, they can go kind of forward and back a little bit, out to the side a little bit. You have a little bit of a knee bend, nothing great. The feet, they can sort of move. He stands well. It'd be nice if the legs had a little bit more mobility to them. The jaw, it can open and it can close. I suppose you could lean the head down, but that's really sort of undoing the transformation a bit. Nothing really that you could do with the tail. So, like, he's alright, he stands well. None of these beasts have tremendous articulation. Never did, probably never will. Even the like MP versions of a lot of these guys, like the beast modes, are still limited to some degree. Or if they're not limited, then they look very kind of chunked together. I think that this is about as organic of a look as you're gonna really be able to get for the guy. Now, there is a piece of parts forming going on here, and it has to do with the tail. The tail also becomes his defense accessory, his sword, I guess. It is connected on here now. In package, it was not connected, and it does just sort of come off like this. Okay, now his hips are apart. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show this up closer, and then we'll talk about the accessory, because the way that this connects is, and always sort of has been, a little bit weird, little bit strange. But kind of in a package, like this is what you have without the tail. And now, in essence, to attach the tail, what you have is these two sections here. They are really going to be his hips in robot mode. I guess there's hips in this mode too, but they are apart here. And there's a rectangular tab up here and a rectangular tab up right there. A chunk of the tail goes down between these two sections, but there are holes that go over each of those rectangular tabs. And those holes that go over those tabs look like this. Right there and over right there. And this hole kind of center section here goes down in that space. It's also what locks over his robot mode hand to make this a melee weapon thing, I guess. I'm going to kind of transform this piece now so you see what it is I'm talking about. So here we are with the tail off, and really, here's what sort of happens with this. We have the tail that, like, it comes apart. You pick up that piece, you pick out this other piece down here, and then this piece on the side comes forward, and this part of the tail folds in. Now, I mean, I guess you could close it back up like that, but you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to leave it open at this point, and this piece will go on over his hand, and then there you go. Like, this is his, like, you know that spinner shield thing he has and his sword? That's here. Really, the sword is supposed to be a translucent orange, but it's silver on the program, so I painted it silver. There's one piece done. Now, you can take the sword out of there because it's spring-loaded and it will fire. I'm surprised that it hasn't already popped out, to be honest with you. There. Is it spring-loaded or is it just friction? Maybe it's just friction. Maybe it's just friction, and it doesn't lock in there real well, so I tend to take it out. But you can put this on as like that shield thing that spun, that spinner shield thing that he's known to have, I guess. Or there's another option you can do with this. We'll look at that in a little bit because I want to take a second and focus on his sword here. It is, or it was, all this translucent orange. Like I said, I painted it silver. The MP swords almost looks like a rose gold color to me. I don't like that. I like silver better. I believe the Japanese one was silver. I dig it better. Now, when it comes to robot mode, you can leave his hands kind of as claws, or you can turn them into traditional hands. If you leave it as a claw, this doesn't fit in there really. You really need to have it transformed as a traditional hand for him to be able to hold his sword. So why don't we just transform this guy into that robot mode so that we can see those accessories in use? I kind of have him stood up here because it's the easiest way to balance them. To do the conversion, we'll sort of start at the bottom and I guess work our way up. So, from the bottom, we can take this thigh piece off the side. It's on an armature in here, and we can begin to bring it down. You can also open out these little sections right there. They're kind of the bone pieces that go around his leg. This whole piece was purple, like this armature in here. I painted a lot of it blue because I didn't like it purple. It's not supposed to be purple. So, we come right to the bottom and we turn his foot around. We can bring this down and it goes in on the back of the leg with these pieces folding out around the front of the thigh. And that's one leg done. On the other side, we can do the same thing. We turn his foot around. We angle down this hip piece and open out those little spiky bone pieces, I suppose. We rotate the, well, purple piece, or blue piece in my case, around, bring it in on the back of the leg, and fold these around the front of the leg. And really, that's like the bottom of this guy now. Finished. We only have the upper body left to concern ourselves with. So what will we do for the upper body? Well, we'll bring the little dinosaur arms back out of the way, and then we will fold down these little pieces on the side. That will allow us to kind of bring out his arm, and fold out and fold out. Bring up and bring up, but don't bring them all the way up yet. The dinosaur head will come down next. Now, this little flap here that kind of covers his face, his robot mode face, it had a spring in it. There's a little hole up here by the head. Is it up there by the head? Yeah, I think it's up here by the head. And it had, like you were able to poke into it and pop the spring out, and that helps this a lot more, because if you don't pop the spring out and you go to bring the dinosaur head forward, this whole flap here will get in your way and you won't be able to get the head down as far as you would like to get it, and it's sort of then up over his face. So I would say to you that it is well worth taking the time to remove the little, I don't know what you call it, spring, I guess. The hips, if you didn't already push them together now. And beautiful. And then you can bring the arm down and bring the arm down, and you can rotate at the bicep, and you can rotate at the bicep. Now, in essence, I guess you could say, boom, you're done. But by rights, what you're supposed to do is flip back those claws, I suppose, and bring this hand all the way around, and I guess you could even bring the claw down over it like that. So he has more of a traditional looking hand. And here we have him with both accessories. Now he holds this one over here just fine, the sword just fine, if you have the hand transformed in such a way that it looks like a normal robot hand instead of like his claw hand. By the way, if you do it this way, and I don't think I really showed this, but I'll do it now. If you do it this way, you're gonna have the two claws kind of go in and fill in his forearm. Here's his hand, and you can leave the other three, I guess, down over like the back of his hand. So, you know, it works, I guess. Now, if you like didn't want him holding onto the sword, there's another option for it, as well as this thing. Like, it's cool that it fits over his hand. It does not spin, and because like the elbows and whatnot are just pinned or friction or whatever they are, it doesn't do a great job of, I guess if you have it up straight like that, he can hold it, but like just out straight, maybe it's a bit stronger than I thought it was. I don't know, I don't feel like he holds it that well. You tend to usually need to rest it on the table like I got done there. So there is another option. You can remove this from his hand, and you can kind of come around to the back here. And you can close the whole tail section back up. You can sort of close the whole thing back up. And what you have is a little hook right there. And that little hook can go down over like the edge of the back here. Like that. And it can just rest on his back. I think that that's cool. I like it. If you really wanted, you could have the tail out and you could leave the whole sword in there. It's not the sturdiest of connections. Like, it's all right, but it doesn't take a lot to pop it off. So what about the paint apps for this dude? Well, just stock at a package. It was like a 5. It's not great. He has a purple face. He has purple down around his knees, purple down around his feet. The gold isn't gold, it's this like weird yellowy plastic. Now I get why they didn't use gold plastic, and I appreciate that. He didn't have the black detailing on his like head helmet crest thing. It wasn't great. Even the like claw things on his legs and kind of in here on his body weren't colored. He didn't have the blue kind of down on his lower body here. It wasn't great. So I did a lot here with silver and gold and blue and black. Now I feel like it's much more akin to what he looked like in his Japanese release. It's not perfect. I would say that this, using a bit of my own legwork, and I got this guy on a great deal. Actually, Starscream Fiance got him for me for my birthday several months ago. I was really happy with what I paid for him, but I knew he needed the paintwork. Now I'd say that with the paint, actually, he's a good 8.5. I would say the Japanese one is a solid 9.5. The MP, I guess it's a 10, although I don't like the proportions of the MP. There's something about his shoulders that don't sit well with me, and I've heard of the shoulder joint on the MP breaking. That would make me just cry with his cost. I don't know, have we gotten a perfect Dinobot? I don't think we have. Even that KO, a lot of people might say, hey, what about the KO? For looks, that's probably a 7. Maybe, like, you know it's Dinobot, but it's not painted right. It is what it is. So, because I have this guy for my collection, and my collection is really kind of chug-focused, I'm cool with it 8.5. What about the transformation? Transformation is pretty simple, pretty easy. Kind of interesting, the way the hips come apart and slide together, the way the sides of the body come down. It looks fairly organic in the end. I'm going to say that the transformation is a solid 9. So right now it's 8.75. What about the articulation? Well, the articulation dino mode is alright. In this mode, the head, it can go left and right, a little wiggle up and down, but that's it. The shoulders, they can go all the way up and all the way down. They can't go all the way around because we have this piece back here that has the like little raptor arm on it. But the arms can go way out to the side. We have a bicep swivel. We have elbows all the way. We have wrists that can move. Now, I wanted to note that when it came to holding the sword. While you do have to have the hand in the, I guess, typical configuration, you can like rotate the hand thusly. So like he's sort of pointing the sword a bit forward. How far can you take that? You can take it pretty far. So he's kind of having it forward instead of always having to have it like straight up like this. So I kind of dig that. We do not have a waist. No waist. We have hips well forward, well back, way out to the side. So the hips are pretty great overall. Knees, highly limited knees. Now you can open these pieces out, pick this off the back, and bring it out to the side and get a full knee of 90 degrees, but then you have this hanging off the side. So it doesn't look great, but like you can do it if you really had to get the knee going that far, I guess. But it's not the way that the transformation intends it. As for the feet, we have a little bit of an ankle rocker, and we have a tilt forward and back. I wish that we had better knees. I really do. I wish the knees were improved from what they are. Nevertheless, I can't say that I don't like the guy. His overall score for articulation, waist would be nice. I gotta double check that waist. Nah, definitely not. Waist would be nice, and kind of a better thigh rotation would be nice. Knees would be nice, but I don't miss a lot of it. 7. He was a 8.5. I have to be honest. As much as I want to score his articulation higher, and while you can like manage to pull off some dynamic poses with it, the fact of the matter is there are limitations to it. That's just the reality, objectively speaking. So we'll say 7. Overall score for the guy, he was a 8.75, 7. Overall, he's about a 7.95, an 8. It's a good iteration of the character if you do the paint apps. Otherwise, get something that looks more animation accurate from the original mold, or get something that can kind of work in the collection like the KO, or splurge for the Japanese release. If you're gone the MP route, well, I guess we know which one you have to get. But for me, for my interest in Beast Wars, for my interest in the Maximals, for my interest in this character, an 8 for this Chug representation with the paint apps is pretty good by me. Here's how he looks with the rest of his team. And here he is with the rest of the team as we have them so far. My personal collection is an absolute mishmash of official and unofficial and kind of original figures from the 90s and Generations releases and everything. I looked at Generations Rat Trap a long time ago in episode 189. I looked at Rhinox, who has his own issues, in episode 192 a long time ago. I looked at the Optimus Primal, my custom Ultra Class Optimus Primal, in episode 287. He's not complete, but he's good enough for me, and honestly, I really like that figure. He has stood up so well over time. The KO of Lio Jr. in right here from Beast Wars 2 was in episode 318, and the KO of Air Razor, making her a deluxe size, I looked at in episode 319. Not all KOs are bad. They're pretty good, especially for being $2 each, which is exactly what they were. I think that leaves me with Depth Charge, who I looked at in episode 373. Again, not quite complete, but a really nice find for what I paid for him. That being said, this is not the entire Maximal team. We still have a few key additions to make. My collection basically focuses on those that had screen time on the program. So, that being said, I'm sort of torn though, because I'm not sure if I want to kind of keep that kind of monkey version of Optimus Primal with this group, with the family shot here, so to speak, or if I should just replace him with the Power of the Prime's Optimal Optimus, who I looked at pretty recently in episode 432, and I like that update for him. He does need, as far as I'm concerned, the add-on kit from DNA Designs, but that's just me. Maybe you don't care about having his final mode. I looked at a whole lot to do with that guy. So this is how it kind of looks. Now, arguably, yes, we should have a larger Dinobot. Would I be in for one the size of, say, a Voyager, about the same size as Rhinox? Sure, why not? Would I be in for one that's a leader class? I get it for robot mode, but I don't think in dinosaur mode that a Raptor would quite be that large compared to these other beasts. So, sort of the kind of happy medium that I would be okay with, I think, would be a Voyager class Rhinox, or Voyager class Dinobot. But in the meantime, I am perfectly fine with my Deluxe class version that I have here, and I think that the group looks pretty good together so far. So who are we missing? Well, stick around and stay tuned, because we're going to cover the rest of the Maximal team in the days ahead. And here we are once again, back with Dinobot. Some time ago, I looked at the Power of the Prime's Optimal Optimus, and the thought came to me then that I really had not spent the time on the Beast Wars characters that I would like to spend on them. And my collection is somewhat limited, mostly focusing on those that had screen time, really. That would be the characters that I know best. So, hey, why not put the focus where I like it? And I like to have one representation of a character. You guys that have been around recently know that I am currently lamenting a couple of representations of both Barricade and Jazz. It's a tough call to make when I like all of the toys, but I have to try and control things somehow for this display behind me that's actually a lot smaller than a lot of people believe it to be. So, I chose this guy. Yes, the argument could be made that he should be bigger, and yes, he most assuredly needed the custom paint apps. why didn't I get the Japanese release? Because it goes for about 5 times more than what I paid for this guy, typically on the aftermarket. Could he use yet another update? Yeah, probably so. Like I said, a Voyager class would be nice, but I do dig him nonetheless. And I have looked at a lot of the Maximals over time here on the channel. Well, we're not quite done, because if I'm going for those that have had screen time, there's still a few left. I'm happy to have this guy despite his imperfections. And I like the dinosaur mode. And I like his robot mode. I wish the knees bent a little bit better. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot to complain about with this guy. Anyway, let me know which Dinobot you like best. I'm willing to guess a lot of people will say the Masterpiece. But which one do you actually have in your collection? What sort of a collector are you? Did you go for the kind of traditional Beast Wars releases? I've never fiddled with that figure, but I hear it's pretty great. I like this one. There's an argument to be made for the KO that I think is about a Voyager size. Or are you a die-hard MP collector and finally glad to be getting some Masterpiece Beast Wars in that line? You know I love to hear from you guys. I appreciate you dropping by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. Again, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so very much. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to continue our Beast Wars trek right here inside the videos.